Good evening. Hey, John. Greg. Els. Okay, so I thought, I was kind of torn what topic to do this. If I were to start this as a regular class, what topic to pick? So I thought the Meshech Chachma had a couple of things going for it. First one is I like discussing Jewish philosophy. Second one is people tend to come to Parsha things more than other things. And third, my family has a personal tie to the Meshech Chachma, as my great grandfather spent his adolescence in the Meshech Chachma's home. So it was always a book I wanted to know a little better. So this gives me the opportunity, the excuse, the whatever, to prepare a little Meshech Chachma every week. I'm going to try to keep this short, which is always harder than keeping it long. People who don't publicly speak probably think that's a joke. But in any case, I'm going to look through the Meshech Chachma, find something that intrigued me. So the topics may be more what intrigues Micha Berger than what intrigues Meir Simcha Cohen of Devinsk, the author of the Meshech Chachma. I did put on the event, I put a link to a Sfaria page where the text is, but I do not plan on making this heavy enough they actually need to follow along in the text if you don't want to. But I am copying and pasting that link to the chat window for those who want to keep me honest. Oh, that's a really long link. Okay. So, with all that said, I'm not good at preamble, so let's just go straight to the topic. The pasuk famously talks about the creation of man, and it says, "Vayomer Elokim." Hashem said, "Naaseh Adam, let us make man." And of course, everybody comments on the Naaseh, the plural. Why is it let us make man? B'tzalmenu kidmusenu. In our image, in our likeness, or like our likeness. And v'yirdu b'degas hayam, and they will rule in the fish of the sea, ov hashmayim, the birds of the sky, behema, uva behema, in the domesticatable animals, chol haaretz, and all the land, chol harames harames haaretz, and everything that creeps on the land. So that's the pasuk. Meshech Chachma, though, only deals with Naaseh Adam b'tzalmenu. So what we're going to be looking at is what is Tselem Elokim according to the Meshech Chachma. So he says Naaseh Adam b'tzalmenu, in our likeness, in our image. Hatzelem Eloki, the image of God, hu abechira hachavshis, is free will, free choice, to be more literal. Bechira, choice, chavshit, free. B'li teva machriach, without nature forcing any decisions. Rak miratzon, only will, desire. V'seichel chavshi, and unconstrained intellect. So this is not the only possible definition of what it means to be in Hashem's image. But according to the Meshech Chachma, to be in Hashem's image is to be is to have the ability to choose. In contrast, the Nefesh HaChaim says that being in Hashem's image means being made of all the forces of all the worlds, and thus in the image of the one who created all the forces and is master of all the forces in all the worlds. These are very related ideas because it's the fact that we have all these conflicting things going on in us that we're forced to choose between them. In fact, Rav Dessler famously writes about this thing called the Nekudas HaBechira, the decision point. And he notices that most of the decisions we make do not involve free will. Meaning they're not even conscious. We can't talk about them being free will decisions because we don't actually think about them one way or the other. Go into a store, hopefully when you pass an item on the shelf, it doesn't cross your mind to steal the item. So you can't really say there was a free will decision to not steal it. So this Nekudat HaBechira is where the two sides are in conflict enough that you start thinking about whether or not you want to decide things. So the Nefesh HaChaim's definition of the image of God being a unity of many forces for many worlds kind of leads to the Meshech Chochma's idea of the image of God. We could also talk about Musar's idea of the image of God as something that exists in potential, and a person is in the job to refine and become an ever more exact image of God, and the midos. You can tell that most of the time that I talk Musar, I talk to a population that speaks Israeli Hebrew. The midos that we refine are to reconstruct the Tselem Eloki, but again, that too boils down to navigating the conflicting forces that make us a free will decision. There's a very interesting implication in this sentence of the Meshech Chochma, because what he's saying is what makes us closest to God is not the angelic part of a human. What makes us closer to God is where the angelic part of the human and the animal part of the human conflict. I once heard a speaker, this was, unfortunately I don't remember who, but it was a Gush Etzion hot podcast, virtual base medrash. So the speaker said the most transcendent thing about being human is our very ability to be transcendent. Of course, that sentence needs to be unpacked. The most transcendent thing about being a human is our very ability to be transcendent. Because no matter how perfect, how much one polishes that image of God, we are finite and He is infinite. So there'll always be, we're just an infinitesimal speck of the ideal we're trying to reach. What does make us in the image of God is what the Meshech Chochma is talking about, the ability to define who it is I'm going to be. That is what makes my image of God mine. Okay, that's very distracting. Somebody's texting me, asking me how to get to the shir while I'm not giving the shir. Okay, enough problems. So, the ability to transcend is because we get to pick who to be, and just like Hashem picks who to be. And according to Meshech Chochma, that's the essence of being godly. It's not, right? So therefore, it's not the angelic side of us, because Malachim are programmed. They do what their mission is. I know there are Kabbalistic exceptions to that, but we're in the Meshech Chochma's world. The Meshech Chochma's world, angels don't have free will, therefore people, we are holiest where the angel and the animal meet. That is where we are most in the image of Hashem. Now he goes on, V'hinei Yidiyaso Yisbarach, divine omniscience, Eina mechras habechira. Do not compel our choices. Right? This is a very famous question. If Hashem knows tomorrow what I'm going to do today, how is it I could still talk about having free will? So he addresses this question. He actually addresses this at length in another work of his, the Or Sameach, which is on actually at the end of the text, and I don't plan on studying in depth. I'm just going to outline one of his ideas, but I did include it. The Meshech Chochmah on Hilchos Tshuva, where the Rambam talks about free will, he discusses this at more length. V'nei yidiyaso yisbarach eina mechras habechira ki ein yidiyaso ba'a nosefes ki yidi shal basar v'dam. Whoa, that's a long sentence. I gotta figure out where to put the comma, where to put the translations. His knowledge does not compel our choices, because Hashem's knowledge does not ein yidiyaso ba'a nosefes. His knowledge does not come increasing like the knowledge of a person, which comes which comes from the senses. People learn, right? Either we learn by seeing the idea itself, or we learn by seeing other people's teachings, right? We see texts like this one. We hear people explain things, but knowledge comes from the senses, and therefore we accumulate knowledge. Our knowledge is within the timeline, right? It grows through our senses. But with Hashem, rak hi atzmuso yisbarach. Hashem's knowledge is part of his essence. Because of a Rambam, like the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva 5:5, v'hine im ki ein bil biyicholes banu. We do not have within us the ability lahavin, to understand ehu, how it's possible. Ki ilu yidiyaso hayis. Ki ilu yidasiv hayisiv. Because if I understood him, I would be him. Right? We can't understand what it means for God to know without learning. Right? Because we can't understand God. It would take God to understand how to be God. So, Rakanu Yodim Shala Bechira Chavshis Hu Mitzumtzam Helokus. Okay. That's the third thought and the last thing I want to make sure to get to. And now I have a better sense of how much material I should be preparing. So the second thought is that God's knowledge does not influence our free will. And it ends up, if we would look at his position in depth, I'm just going to summarize, it ends up the reason why his knowledge doesn't impact our free will is because his knowledge is his essence and has nothing to do with time and has nothing to do with learning. Right, we learn, and therefore there's a causal link between the action and the knowledge. So if knowledge came first, we would wonder how the action causes the knowledge and not the knowledge causes the action. Hashem's knowledge has nothing to do with time. It's just of his essence, whatever that means. And therefore, there is no contradiction between Hashem knowing and our doing. If I wanted to phrase it a little more shockingly, I would say the reason why Hashem's knowing today doesn't compel what I do tomorrow is because Hashem doesn't know today what I'm going to do tomorrow. Hashem just knows. There's no todayness. There's no now in Hashem's existence. Hashem is watching time, not participating in time. And therefore, he doesn't know now what I'm going to do tomorrow, and therefore there's that whole being compelled by what he knows doesn't even start. I just want to touch on this third thought, even though if I really stuck to the 15-minute timeline, I wouldn't even have time to start this. We just know this. The only way we have free will is through Tzimtzum. Hashem Yisbarach meniach makom lebruav. Hashem gives room to that which he created. Lazos k'fi ma sheyivcharu, to do the way we decide. Vishalom mif'aleihem hagzera v'achlota b'pratius. And we don't have dictate rules or dictation for what we do in detail. V'lachein amar, and therefore it says, therefore Hashem said El libo, to his heart, so to speak, Nase adam mitzalmenu, let us make man in our image. So this is a big piece, this idea that it takes tzimtzum for us to have free will. And he explains further on that this is why Hashem here speaks in the plural, because each of the angels to which he gives these control or mastery of each of these forces, or if you want Rambam's approach, is the embodiment of the various physical forces in the universe and metaphysical forces in the universes. Each of these angels has to make room. If it was doing its job, then we would be compelled by nature. So everything stands back. There's a tzimtzum, there's a constriction, which gives us the ability to make choices. And this is a large part, and according to Orchot Tzadikim, the central part of how to refine that Tzelem Elokim. Just as Hashem stands back to give us room to be ourselves, we are obligated to stand back to give other people room to be themselves. And that is the essence of Anavah. Anavah, or Anivas, if you want, modern, grammatically weird Hebrew, is Anavah, Anivas is our making room for other people in the world. As Dr. Alan Marinis would say, each person takes up, it stays in their place. I know my place, and I take up no more than my space. So I'm there for other people when they need me. I don't crowd into them when they need their own room. And that is the imitation of Tzimtzum, the very creation of free will that we are emulating when we refine our free will. And again, according to the Orchot Tzadikim, the essence of the Yetzer Hara, of the Yetzer Tov, everything positive in the human character starts with Anavah. That is the first midah, the central midah, and all the other positive midos flow from that from Anavah, from that tzimtzum, from my constricting myself to make room for other people. So what do we see from all this? What we see from all this is that the dignity of a person is not, and the holiness of a person is not being a passive recipient from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem does not want us to be like the angels, where we receive and we're not giving. To be in the image of God is to be giving, and the only way to be giving is to decide for ourselves who it is we're going to be and what our contribution is going to be that we make to this world. And it's still early enough in the year for us to be spending time thinking about exactly what it is we want to be in this year. And, as the old Total commercial used to say, today is the first day of the rest of our lives. And that is the only way to make the Tzelem Elokim, the full dignity that Hashem created us to be, manifest. I'd love feedback. I know this had some rough edges. I'm still working on the format. I'm working on trying to map the format to the amount of material to prepare. But hopefully enough people enjoyed this that we'll try again with Parshas Noach. Have a great week, great Shabbos, great evening. Bye.